this so this is the आपके पास तो ये भी है, you have already the biochemical pathway which I have shared in the WhatsApp group. So now look at the whiteboard here. Just I am going to explain the biochemical pathway, biochemical pathway as per biochemical pathway of phenylalanine degradation. देखो, this is the phenylalanine. Look at the whiteboard here. The first this is the phenylalanine. This is the structure. This is the chemical structure of phenylalanine, and this phenylalanine gets converted into phenylpyruvic acid. In the first step, phenylalanine gets converted into phenylpyruvic acid, and this phenylpyruvic acid gets converted into in the next step it gets converted into para-hydroxyphenylpyruvic acid. This para-hydroxyphenylpyruvic acid undergoes conversion into the 2,5-dihydroxyphenylpyruvic acid. This 2,5-hydroxyphenylpyruvic acid in the next step gets converted into the homogentic acid, and this homogentic acid is finally converted into acetoacetic acid, and which finally breaks into the carbon dioxide and water. Okay, so there are two in this. Let us see the second step. If this phenylpyruvic acid does not get converted into the para-hydroxyphenylpyruvic acid, what I am saying, if this second step is blocked, if there is any mutation in the gene if there is any mutation in the gene which encodes the enzyme required for the catalysis of this phenylpyruvic acid into the para-hydroxyphenylpyruvic acid, what will happen? This stop will be blocked. I have shown here in the reading the blockage. So if there is any change or if there is any mutation in the gene which encode the enzyme meant for catalyzing the conversion of the phenylpyruvic acid into the para-dihydroxyphenylpyruvic acid, what will happen? This phenylpyruvic acid will not be converted into the para-hydroxyphenylpyruvic acid, and as a result of which this phenylpyruvic acid will accumulate in the cell. There will be accumulation of the phenylpyruvic acid, and if there is accumulation of phenylpyruvic acid, a genetic disorder will take place, and a disease will be caused, and that disease will be known as the phenylketonuria, or which is also known as the PK, which is abbreviated as PKU, phenylketonuria, and the patients are known as phenylketouriac. ठीक है, phenylketouriac. So if there is any, each step, just let me explain here that each step is catalyzed by one enzyme. So if this phenylalanine is converted into the phenylpyruvic acid in the first step, in the second step phenylpyruvic acid is converted into the para-hydroxyphenylpyruvic acid, and if this reaction does not take place due to the absence of enzyme, and why this enzyme will not be produced? If there is any mutation in the gene which is meant for encoding the enzymes to catalyze this phenylpyruvic acid into the para-hydroxyphenylpyruvic acid, what will happen? This phenylpyruvic acid will not be converted into para-hydroxyphenylpyruvic acid. That will lead to the accumulation of the phenylpyruvic acid, and due to the accumulation of the phenylpyruvic acid, a genetic disease will take place, a biochemical disorder will take place, and that disease will be known as the phenylketonuria. And the patients is known as phenylketonuria. Phenylketonuria, that is the name of the disease, and the patient is known as phenylketonuria. Okay, and now let us see the next step. If there is no blockage, if this phenylpyruvic acid is converted well into the para-hydroxyphenylpyruvic acid, which is finally converted into 2,5-hydroxyphenylpyruvic acid, which is finally converted into the homogentic acid, and if there is a blockage. Now see the second blockage. If this homogentic acid is not converted into the acetoacetic acid, if the blockage is at this level, at this step of biochemical pathway, when the homogentisic acid is not converted into the S2 acid, what will happen? The accumulation of homogentisic acid will take place, and due to this accumulation of homogentisic acid, a disease will be caused, and that disease will be known as the alkaptonuria. Alkaptonuria, which is abbreviated as AKU. And what happens in this disease? In case of phenylketonuria disease, what happens? The person become mentally retarded, intellectual disability take place. Okay, so this is the patient suffering from the phenylketonuria is mentally retarded, and if and the and when if the homogentisic acid is not converted into acetoacetic acid, a disease called alkaptonuria will take place, and the patient is known as alkaptonuria. And what is that symptom of this disease? What will happen in this disease? Accumulation of homogentisic acid will take place in, and such patient in such patient, when the patient passes urine, the urine turns black as soon as it comes in contact with the air. So in case of alkaptonuria disease, what happens? Due to the accumulation of homogentisic acid, as the person passes the urine on coming in contact with the air becomes black. So this is also a disease which is called alkaptonuria. This is a genetic disorder due to the lack of the enzymes, or due to the defective enzyme or lack of the enzymes which is required for the convert homogentisic acid. अगर S2 acid में अगर नहीं बदलेगा तो what will happen? Homogentisic acid will accumulate, and that accumulation will result in a disease, and that disease is known as alkaptonuria, and the patient is known as alkaptonuria. Now let us see the third disease. You all know that the color of our skin and the color of our hairs is due to the presence of melanin pigment. So this melanin is also produced in this pathway. What happens? If the 3-dihydroxy, if this 3,4-dihydroxy phenylalanine is not converted into melanin, what will happen? There will be no production of melanin, and in the absence of melanin, the skin will become white, and this disease is known as the albinism, and the patients are known as albino. So you might have seen some persons with white spots on their skin, and so this disease is known as albinism, and this disease is a genetic disorder. This is not a pathological disorder. You know that if a person having the white spot on our face or skin, and some patient, you might have seen that the entire skin of the person has become whitish in color, white, and even his hair also become white. So this is due to the absence of melanin synthesis. And why the melanin is not formed? Because this 3,4-hydroxyphenylalanine is not being converted into melanin, because the gene encoding the enzymes meant for this conversion of 3,4-dihydroxyphenyl acid into the 3,4-dihydroxyphenylalanine into the melanin, and there is a blockage due to the gene mutation. And you know that each step requires one enzyme, and in the absence of functional enzyme, there will be no further step, and that will result in the non-conversion of 3,4-dihydroxyphenylalanine. Melanin is not synthesized, and in the absence of melanin, a disease takes place. That disease is known as the albinism, and the patient